Welcome to the first episode of HerExchange TV, the Roundtable. So happy to have you all here, and particularly happy to welcome Mary Amons, mother, wife, philanthropist, business extraordinaire, and of course reality star. So please welcome her. We're going to start the discussion today tying back to something that's on HerExchange right now, which is an interview I did with Danielle McGuire, talking about women's role historically in national movements. Specifically there, the civil rights movement. And looking at women really being the step keepers of the movement and doing the work, yet men being very much in front. Thinking about that and tying it to what we recently had happen in November, where we lost seats for the first time in almost 3 decades in the Congress. So what's going on? Why are we losing seats? And my concern is that in light of recent tragedies in Tucson, that we're going to continue to have women pull back. Is that the case? And where are we right now?
I think that's a good question. One thing that always upsets me is those bumper stickers that say behind every strong man or good man is a strong woman. But it's actually true. That's the thing. In Congress, you're pointing out Congress, the majority.
A smart man is going to acknowledge that.
Yes.
A man that wants to be married.
Yeah.
Time.
You're talking about Congress, and the majority of staffers are women. And so you have the majority of Congress are men, and the people telling them what to do, the votes to cast are women.
Yeah.
So it's something for us to keep in mind. Who are these people who are taking credit for everything while the hard work is getting done by a lot of women?
Absolutely. Why are the women sidestepping the hard work and electing not to take on these positions for matters of security or safety, or why are we avoiding the spotlight and just supporting our men?
But I have a question. Do you really think that the shooting with Representative Giffords had anything to do with the fact that she was a woman? I
don't believe so.
I
don't at all. I feel that person was so wildly unstable it could have been anything. It's such a tragedy. I hope that the ramifications aren't that women pull back because it's fearful. I mean, that's scary, and there's a family involved, and now you think about it in a different context and think, I've got children, I can't put myself in harm's way in a different way because it becomes reality. So I fear that we continue, if we stay back. Although in this last election, a record number of women ran, but a record number weren't elected.
I actually think that the example of what happened in Tucson is what's happened since then is going to bring more women out. And the reason I think that is we're starting to see more women on camera talking about their position of power. We see Deborah Wasserman Schultz, we see Kirsten Gillibrand, we see Nancy Pelosi, all talking about not only their own positions and how they balance their personal and professional lives, but their support of Gabby Giffords when she got into her position, how they helped her learn how to navigate, how they help other women figure out how to take posts on committees of power like armed services, and even how we look at those women now and we're able to say, women are taking the leap, and look at them, they're balanced, they're happy, they have husbands who are powerful as well, and they still have children, or Nancy Pelosi, who is a nurturing grandmother and shows that side of her, and a steely woman when it comes down to her job. And so I think the examples we're seeing are so powerful that that's what women need to see more of, because we have been, in the past, content for either safety reasons, as in your article, or just particularly the kind of positions women have been in, willing to take the back seat and say, the man is in front and we're in the back. I don't think women are satisfied, and seeing more women take the front seat and claim their power, I think it's a great example we're seeing today.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree with that. I am heartened by the media's portrayal of the women supporting each other since the situation happened in Tucson. I feel like oftentimes women in power are always, even if it's not the case, whether or not it's the case, shown as pitting against each other and being catty towards each other. And it's just this awful caricature that isn't necessarily reality.
Absolutely.
No, I think you're spot on there, and I also think one of you talk about the bumper sticker you don't like. I cannot stand the idea that any woman in power is what we need. We just need more numbers. I think we need more women that are thoughtful leaders and power leaders that understand that power is shared among men and women, and we don't need to pit ourselves against each other or against Republicans and Democrats even to have power.
Yeah.
And that extends into the boardroom as well.
Absolutely. Are we breaking those stereotypes? We talked a little bit about the women feeling, can I go into a power position, or do I have to choose family or power? Do I have to choose career or family? Can you have both? And are women feeling a place where they're breaking that barrier and saying, I can have both?
I really appreciate women who do have the ability to balance both and not be too much about one or the other. Like, I think they really need to be focused on their families, and their first priority should be their families, but I appreciate women who take the risk to go and be a voice for women and be a voice for families and do a good job of balancing it.
But how far then can women go in the corporate world? I mean, we are constantly either limiting ourselves or limited by larger corporations based on the fact that you want to have family when you're pitted against a man for the same position who probably is able to work 80 hours a week versus a woman who needs to balance her family and her career, among other things. I mean, it seems like the only opportunity for a woman to actually have it all is through entrepreneurship, where you are pretty much working out of your home and you're still giving of your time, probably more so than you would in a corporation. But why aren't those opportunities available for women in the larger corporations?
I counted that the smart corporations and corporations more going forward into the next 10 and 20 years, the successful corporations are going to be the ones that are offering those opportunities.
The smart ones.
Right. But I do think we see it in some cases. I wonder how often we as women limit ourselves, you had said that phrase, limit ourselves by saying, well, if I'm going to go for the promotion, it's going to mean I have to sacrifice my children. When that's not necessarily the case. And there is a case for being made for balance between the two. And it starts with us by not accepting some of the norms, or accepting that the norms will be there before we even put ourselves in the position of asking for the promotion or putting our hat in the ring. You know, there's an interesting phenomenon about women. I have a client who's a COO, who was trying to be a CFO. Somebody said, why don't you throw your hat in the ring to be CFO of this company? And she said, I only have 75% of what's on this list. And he said, I only have 50, but I'd throw my hat in the ring.
Isn't that so important?
Interesting. And I think that we limit ourselves more often than the company itself does. Not that it does not exist,
Right.
but if we are pushing for it and create environments for our women in our companies, in our divisions, in our even in our government, to exist as whole individuals. I mean, men too, because I think men don't want to be working the 80 hours. They want to be at the softball games with their kids too.
Yeah.
And even women like me, who don't have children, I want to have a life outside of work.
Yeah.
So it's not, I think we have to look at it from our own perspective and start playing in our own space. So sometimes it's entrepreneurship, but sometimes it's saying, what can we change at work where we exist?
And pushing those
Do you think that corporate America is making strides?
Some companies are. Companies like Zappos, I think, are really looking at culture and how they exist and creating a culture that embraces innovative and creative leaders and allows them to have life outside and knows that the company benefits from it.
Yeah.
But then, you know, look at Wall Street and other companies that make it a lot harder. So.
Because in my opinion, just because I have a husband who is very, very actively involved with our children, and fortunately he's been able to be at home and be an entrepreneur and spend a lot of time with our kids, I think there is this new wave in our culture, in our business culture, where men really want to be involved with their kids.
I agree.
And so it's almost like there's this shift going on where the women are so driven to be in power and accepted in power, and the men are almost trying to backpedal a little bit and spend less time in the office and more time at home with their kids.
I've seen
Hopefully somewhere we'll meet right in the middle.
Yes.
Sweet
But
spot.
I think we're all searching for it. We're looking for this identity that matches up our personal aspirations and our professional aspirations, and says that you don't have to fit a stereotype created by society or corporate America or TV even to build this whole person, and that you can decide what's important to you and bring it, whether it's being home with your children or having a fancy, you know, footloose and fancy life or whatever it is that has meaning for you.
Yeah.
We
The
look
whole
at
paternity leave thing.
exactly.
Yes,
Exactly.
that is a huge
Yeah.
push.
Which men are actually getting. I mean, more often than they ever were. I mean, it was never even a question before, which also worked against women in corporate America. It was just kind of like, you guys are going to be gone for, 6-10 weeks after childbirth. Well, now that men are actually stepping up and saying, I need to be home as well. I have a new baby also. It's definitely something that's finally being put on the table. I don't know how accepted or recognized it will be universally, but
I think
it's
that's one of the things in corporate America that's actually changing the most. I think that companies that are understanding that at a minimum, if you're starting a family, or you have children, you just want to grow that family, giving people time when a new addition comes, is really the most important piece. And it develops loyalty